Hey guys, it's Poochie. My office is not usually this clean, so I kind of wanted to show it off a little today. Okay, enough of that. We actually got some really interesting news from eBay today. Called and found a rep with a lot of information and kept pumping him for more, just asking questions. And the great thing is, if you didn't know, he didn't just make things up. He kind of told us, well, hold on, let me check. So you'll see a lot of information in this video about retail arbitrage, dropshipping, how they're flagging accounts. It is confirmed. He confirms it again. And how the biggest way that they're finding accounts to flag is due to item location misrepresentation, which he also states in the call. So it's a long call. We go through a lot of stuff. I wanted to ask things not only for our benefit, but also for your benefit, so you could get the information that you need about retail arbitrage, and retail arbitrage dropshipping, and also dropshipping from third parties that you're authorized from eBay. So at one point he does state that you have to send in receipts, but from suppliers or invoices from suppliers, but that he's actually wrong, and he corrects that later. That is for new accounts. If you're selling on a new account and you get flagged, then you can do that. Once you've been flagged as a drop shipper on an existing account that's been around for a while, you just kind of, it goes through an automated system and you have to wait 1 to 2 months. But all the information is in here. I want to make sure you watch it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you click the little bell down below so you get notified of upcoming videos, and make sure you join Poochie's Pack, P-O-O-C-H-I-E-S Pack on Facebook, because we kind of have a think tank there of a group of people, and a lot of them are longtime eBay sellers, drop shippers, retail arbitrage sellers. So you get a lot of information from there that you don't necessarily get on my YouTube channel. Okay, so having said that, I hope you liked the video. It's a little long, but it's packed full of information about selling on eBay, and specifically drop shipping on eBay. I hope you like it.
I have a question about if my account has been flagged for drop shipping. I know, like, I know my sales have gone down tremendously. I've called about it before, and they have said that it is, but I want to verify that it has been, because I have like a different ways that I sell.
Right. Yeah, let me take a look for you and see. Can I put you on a brief hold?
Yeah.
Awesome, I'll be back.
So Louis loves hold time. He loves it when eBay puts us on hold.
So looking through it here, it does look like you are marked as like a drop shipper currently.
Okay. Do you know why that is?
The biggest thing for us is just so like for example, a lot of the times with drop shippers, most drop shippers that we've dealt with on the site, typically will either not be able to get items out to their members sometimes, their buyers sometimes, or even possibly like when it does get to them, it's not subscribed. So a lot of the times with drop shippers, what we see is we have a lot of situations where return cases are being open and I've not received cases are being open. And then even past that, we also have a lot of issues where like drop shippers will say they're shipping from one location when the item's really coming from somewhere else.
So
or it could be coming from multiple locations.
So,
and that's what makes it hard for us to be able to allow like drop shippers to sell as much on our site as other people, because we've just had so many problems and it's hurt so much of our site from those types of problems that drop shippers have. That's made it so that we've had to take action. So I mean, you might not necessarily even be having those same experiences. You might be doing a real good job even of handling your store and making sure that everybody gets help. But since we see so many other people who drop ship having problems, that's where we have to just make sure that it doesn't continue. Now, there's some drop shippers shippers that we have a problem with, because we still have drop shippers that are selling on our site that are fine. But the difference between them is just that they, a lot of the times, will have a contract already for those items that they're selling on their store, so they are in charge of that stock, and that stock is not going to be sold to anybody else. Whereas most other drop shippers are putting items up on their site, and then once it sells, they go purchase it from Amazon or something and then ship it to that buyer, and that's where that is a problem, basically.
So accounts are getting flagged for item location?
So accounts are getting flagged for item location. That's one of them.
That's the biggest thing for it all. It's just the item location misrepresentation is what most accounts are being flagged for when it comes to drop shipping.
What about software that people use?
That doesn't really have any effect for us. To be honest, like, we don't really have any problems. So like that's absolutely, like, there should be no problems with the actual software that's being used. Like, we don't mind. I don't think there's anything that we limit software-wise on our site. Okay.
So what can I do to fix this so that I'm not flagged?
The best way would be, like, being able to show that you have proof of, like, or that you own the stock that you're selling. Which is typically through, like, agreements and whatnot that with the supplier that you're selling with. But even that could be difficult because there's a lot of people who will make up documentation to try to show that they are selling from that person, and we don't want to allow that to happen. We do investigate those documents, but that's where it's like, when you do get that information, we're going to have to do our research before it'll just automatically go through and work for you, you know? So that's one of the biggest things, is having documentation that you own the product that you're selling and not drop shipping it from a different location.
Okay.
So how do we do that?
So
specifically, how do we do that, and how long does it take?
Specifically, how do we do this, and how long would it take to get the account back to good standing?
That would be like so you'd have to get that documentation showing that you have a contract first, and then from there you'd have to give us a call, and we would try to look into like, we'd have you send us the documentation, we'd look into it, and then see if we would be able to remove the disability from your account, basically, to make it so that you could sell more.
So what if we can send them receipts for the products?
What if we can send you receipts for the product?
That wouldn't work because, unfortunately, like, you can get the receipts just by buying it from the site itself. Like, you could still be doing the same thing that we don't want you to do and provide us with receipts, you know? So we would need actual information showing that you own the product that you're selling.
What if
and not like that you have it in hand, basically, to be able to sell.
Okay.
Well, wouldn't receipts show that?
And receipts won't show that?
It would not, because if like, we think that you're drop shipping and you're just showing us receipts, we're just going to assume that you're still drop shipping based off of those receipts, because that you could still be buying it and sending it to somebody else and then showing us the receipt for that, you know?
What if we show a receipt for like 20 items from a supplier from Alibaba or a supplier in the USA?
What if we had a receipt that had like a bulk amount, like 20 or 50 items from a certain supplier?
That could help, but we would need to be able to see that that's like every single item on your store is that way, because if it was only for like one type of item, it wouldn't change anything, unfortunately. Like, we would still have that hold against you, just because we want to be able to see that everything on your store is coming from one location and you know, being sold by you guys, owned by you guys.
So ask him, retail arbitrage dropshipping is no longer allowed on eBay.
So is retail arbitrage dropshipping not allowed on eBay anymore?
No, it's technically never been allowed, but we never did anything about it in the past because there wasn't really anything that we had an idea of how to handle it. Plus, we made money off of it, so they didn't really care. But yeah, that's the arbitrage is the biggest problem for us. That is something that is just not allowed. Any time that there is any sort of arbitrage drop shipping, we crack down on that pretty hard.
What about,
as you can tell with your account?
Yeah, what about arbitrage sellers that are actually going and buying.
What about arbitrage sellers that go out and actually buy items
and have it in hand,
and then have that in hand?
That's absolutely fine. I mean, like, if they're, as long as it's coming from one location that they can represent, and then as long as they own that stock, like, that's fine. If you have that stock on hand and you can control where that's being shipped to, that's absolutely fine.
So you wouldn't have to show receipts?
So then you wouldn't have to show receipts or anything. I mean, you just say that you have it in hand.
And you ship it from your location.
And you ship it from one location.
Like, if it was something where, like, it was a fresh account, yeah, that wouldn't matter to us at all. Like, that would be absolutely fine. But, like, if you're asking, like, for, like, this account currently, I don't think that would help change anything on this one currently, because we just don't want to risk the chances of being like, okay, well, you guys do have the product, and then find out later that you guys are drop shipping again. You know, like, that's a big deal, and that could lead to restrictions to the account as well.
And did their eBay selling policy just change?
Did your selling policy just change?
Because
it's been there for a while. It's just something that we haven't ever really attacked. It hasn't been something that we've worked on. Like, for example, same with our contact info policy. That for the longest time was never actioned or worked on, and then last year we told all the sellers that they have to change that information so that way they have no contact info in their listings, you know? So it's something where we're trying to basically hold ourselves to the things that we tell you guys you should be holding yourselves to, you know? So we're trying to make sure that we're actioning those now and making sure that we get the best possible customer service for our buyers, basically.
One thing, ask if we supply invoices from suppliers for every item we have on right now, okay? Can we get unflagged?
So if we can supply invoices for every item that we have on right now, would we get unflagged?
Let me ask real quick just to make sure, because from what my understanding is that would be the case. But let me double check just to make sure to see if there's anything that you have to go through or to see if it's like just a lost cause or anything. So let me find out real quick for you. Can I put you on hold?
Yeah.
Awesome. I'll be right back. Thank you for holding. So it is something where they said that it's something that auto-evaluates the account. They didn't give me any information as to what information it's looking for, just because they don't know either. All they know is that it auto-evaluates every 1 to 2 months. And then if it sees that everything's going correctly, then it'll just automatically take off that like sales hold, basically. So if you're starting to upload product that's your own, like, that should be something where after a minute that will start working correctly for you again. But if it weren't to work, like if it doesn't work after like 2 months, if you're still seeing the same sort of situation and you change your business and how it's running, and you're doing like the things within our policy, basically, then if it's still not working, then that's where you would have to give us a call and have us look into it further, because that means something's not evaluating correctly. But it is something where they did say it does evaluate and look for it every 1 to 2 months to see how that's being taken care of in action, basically.
So if we send in invoices, what good is that going to do?
So sending in invoices wouldn't do any good, really, would it?
Yeah, so that you wouldn't have to send us anything or gather any of that information. So yeah, they wouldn't do you any good to send us that information in. Okay.
And if you had a brand new account, you wouldn't have to do that because your selling practices would be brand new.
Right, yeah, the only way that you would have to do that is if it looked like you were drop shipping when you aren't, and then that's where we'd ask for the proof that you own the product, you know?
The invoices, okay.
Because that happens with some sellers that do come in new to our site.
Okay. Ask him specifically if the policy changed recently.
There's one policy we noticed. It says items you list must be in your inventory, or you must have an existing agreement with third party to fulfill the delivery of the item under the terms of your listing.
Is that new?
Is that one new?
That's been there, but I mean, that with that information, that's just trying to give you more of like how that works, basically.
But it says that
because that wasn't something that was as visible. Like we didn't represent that information that much at all in the past. Like that's something that's always been there. We just haven't really done anything about it.
But that hasn't been in the item policy before.
But we haven't seen that in the item policy before.
In the seller policy.
Or the seller policy.
It said it just updated.
Oh, like in the actual items itself?
No.
No, in the eBay seller policy. Like it didn't say that before, and it like just said it. So did they just get updated?
Yeah, we might have added it to the account recently if you haven't seen it before, or not an account, but like to the site recently.
Yeah.
That might have been added towards the end of last year when we started making all these actions. It was more towards like quarter 2 is when we started making these actions, so that might have been added around that time.
So did they start doing this in April and then again at the 1st of December?
Did you guys start doing this in April and then the 1st of December?
It was most likely more towards April, and I think we started putting more actions on. I think it was around June or July, if I remember correctly. And then from there, like we've been just evaluating everybody every single month, and if we see those sort of like dropshipping behaviors, we apply that hold to the account basically
and
to make it so that way, like we that way we don't have people just drop shipping.
Okay.
And that means that promoted listings were throttled on December 1st?
So were promoted listings throttled on December 1st?
Because we saw a huge drop.
Because there was a huge drop then.
I'm not sure, to be honest. I would assume that the promoted listings was throttled down for you guys as well. But I do not know for sure on that. But I definitely think that would be something that they would have thought of when it comes to this type of scenarios, is to make sure that promoted listings aren't as visible as somebody else's. But I mean, if you're paying for it and people are buying it, like that's still like would work for you the way that it would work for anybody else. The odds are is your promoted listing isn't going to show up as much as somebody else's promoted listing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there anything else he can offer us to help?
Do you have anything else that you can offer us to help?
I don't, unfortunately. There isn't really much to help in these scenarios, to be honest, on our side. We don't really have access to change any of it. So, like, for example, with the thing that's preventing you from selling as much as you could be, like if I were to try to remove that from the account, it would just put itself back on. We tried at one point because we didn't understand what it was because they didn't really communicate it at first. But there's really nothing on my end that would help you guys out or help make it so this process will get sped along, unfortunately.
Can we open a new account? Can we just open a new account?
Can we open a new account?
You could. The only thing that we would ask on that, this is something that if you were to ask somebody else, they might not give you this information, but this is something that is part of our policy. But as long as you guys aren't selling the same things on both accounts, like we'll be fine. Because that basically, if we see that both accounts have the same items up, we're going to assume that you guys are trying to get around like our duplicate listings policy by trying to make it seem like you guys have two accounts, different accounts selling the same items, you know. There's that, and then the other thing too is like the only other problem that you guys would have to deal with is if one account starts to fail. Like if you guys do decide to use both accounts, if one account starts to have problems, like it is not shipping out on time or having a bunch of cases closed out seller resolution, if a restriction happens to one of those accounts, it's going to waterfall into the other account, just because we don't want to risk having you go from one account with bad problems and then jump to another one and have the same bad problems. But like with the type of thing that you're having now, like it wouldn't be a problem if you made another account and then started selling everything according to our selling policy.
Can we
you wouldn't have any problems there. That would be no issue because as long as you guys are doing the right thing, we don't mind.
Can we transfer our seller limit to that new account?
Could we transfer our seller limit to the new account?
So could you repeat that?
Can we transfer our seller limits to the new account?
You wouldn't be able to, but when it comes to having an account with established selling limits, once you create the new account, there will be a portion where it'll ask you about your selling limits on your account. And in there you can link the two accounts, and that will make the other account have a much higher selling limit. Or with the new account, if you haven't created yet sometimes it'll already recognize your old account and then give you limits according to that other account. But if that still isn't enough for you, you could call us and we could have it sent over to our commercial underwriting team to see if they could get an increase past where it would be at that time.
So if we do that and it links the accounts, would it link the new account as a dropshipping account also? Would it flag it?
If we did that and it linked the two accounts, would it link the new account as a dropshipping account?
I haven't seen it do that,
Okay.
So I don't think it'll happen. I haven't heard any information from anybody saying that would happen or that that's supposed to happen either. I used to deal with the multi-account problems like that, and most of the time, the only things that will transfer over will be like indefinite selling restrictions. So if we just kicked you off the site and you open a new account, that new account would automatically be selling restricted right off the bat, just because we don't want you to think that you can get around that restriction, basically. But as far as the drop shipping goes, it's not considered like a restriction or a suspension, so it wouldn't be jumping onto that new account unless you were exhibiting behaviors that you are a drop shipper.
Okay. So if we have a yearly eBay anchor store, do we have an option to get out of the contract early because these policies have changed on eBay and we can no longer do business the way we were?
If we have a yearly eBay anchor store
subscription, can we get out of that and not pay the penalty?
Can we get out of that and not pay the penalty?
Since eBay's policies have changed?
Your policies have changed?
There wouldn't be a way to do that, unfortunately. And it's only because like the overall the policy hasn't changed. It's been the same. It's just not something that we've actioned. So it would be something where, like, if you wanted to cancel that store, you'd have to pay that early termination fee, unfortunately.
Yeah, but it's never stated that our listings would receive less exposure. That's new.
Did you hear that?
Sorry, I couldn't hear. I've got like an ear problem today.
Oh.
No, it's clogged, so I can't hear in the background, unfortunately.
It's never said before that listings will get less exposure.
Or basically be throttled.
Well, it's never said
it like anywhere, like it's said on the site in places, but it's not been something that has been like brought to the forefront. It's always been part of our terms and agreement as like a user. So that's where it's coming from, is that it was in there and that was something that wasn't being followed. So that's why we're trying to put it in places so people understand how that works now, instead of just leaving it in the terms and agreements and being like, oh, you should have read that. That's the worst argument in the world.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I don't read that, but that's something that I have to tell people sometimes. Like it's not something we're required to say, but it is something where it's like that's part of our terms and agreements, and unfortunately, since it's there, that's what we have to fall back on in those scenarios.
So on the new account, what are the most important things for us to keep in mind?
So on the new account, what are the most important things to keep in mind?
Item location, what else?
Item location.
Just making sure that like whatever product you're selling and wherever you're representing that location as to where it's coming from, that it's actually coming from those locations. Because I do know, I just remembered this, there's one thing that we do see when it comes to drop shippers that we do use as information, which is a lot of the times that feedback that's given. Because most of the time, if it is somebody who is drop shipping just from like Amazon or whatnot, we'll normally see a lot of that negative feedback come through, or we'll see a lot of those item not received cases. So as long as you're shipping from the location that you're saying that the item's going to be shipped from in your listing, like you'll be absolutely fine as long as it gets to them on time, there's no problems and whatnot, it's described correctly, like that will be absolutely fine. Because one of those other problems with drop shippers is that a lot of the times, I don't know if you guys do this, but a lot of times they'll just use stock images that they get from whatever site they're buying from, and so that they'll end up with situations where they send out an item that on the other site's been changed. Like for example, I bought from a drop shipper, didn't have a bad experience, but I bought a book. I got the book, and the book's cover was different from what they were representing the book's cover as, which wasn't that big of a deal to me, but I still let them know.
Yeah.
And that was because the place that they were buying from changed it, and they didn't have that changed yet. So that's part of those problems that we see with drop shipping situations. So if you're able to get the product, take pictures of it yourself, like you'll avoid all sorts of situations when it comes to like item not received cases, not described cases and whatnot, and any of these sort of throttling down of your sales too. Like you'll avoid that completely.
Okay.
Okay.
So we'll be starting another account today.
All right.
And can we call back and ask for him if we have any problems?
Can we call back and ask for you if we have any issues?
Jake?
Yeah, I mean, you could. I wouldn't mind that at all. My name is Jake, so, like, if you have any more questions on it, and, like, if it's something even if I don't know, I'll definitely check with supervisors, too, but most of this stuff, I know I've been here for about 4 years, so I'd be more than happy to help you guys with that.
All right.
Thanks,
you.
Jake.
Yeah, you're welcome. You have a great evening, okay?
Thanks, you too.
Thanks. Bye-bye.